and welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I am your host, Jay.
And I am other host, Ness. What an exciting week.
Nothing really special happened. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh.
All right. Let's break it down where on this day, where were you? I was at work. I was particularly frustrated that I couldn't watch it. And I figured, fine, we'll just find somewhere where they're going to keep a tally of it. I was going in there thinking nothing much would happen with the Sharks. I was just more interested in who would get the first overall pick and how that all would trickle down. Definitely did not expect the Toronto Maple Leafs, who have been pretty consistently making the playoffs for the better part of, a decade. And this is the first time in that span where they haven't made the playoffs. And somehow, from the luck of the draft lottery hockey gods, they roll in and get first overall pick. They moved from fifth place at the beginning of the draft all the way to first, shocking the world. Everybody in a frenzy. Probably the most disappointed out of everyone are the people who live in Vancouver. So where were you and how did you find out about the first overall pick?
I was here at home. I was on the phone with my sibling. I forgot what time the lottery was going to happen, so I didn't find out until I think Nate sent a message in our group Discord chat. And I was like, wait a minute, I missed it. I was looking forward to it. And it was him. I can't remember if you had responded yet. And then Elena, they were like freaking out. They were excited. I was like, what's happening? What did I miss? And it come to find out that the Sharks ended up moving up in the lottery thing too. So
after the Leafs got announced, I went, okay, whatever, move on with my day. I've got stuff to do. And then I turned off, I clicked away. I was ready to get back with the workday. And then my phone started blowing up with like, oh my God. And I'm thinking, what am I missing? What am I missing? And then I go and check, and then I go check the results, and I am just shook. I am beyond disbelief because not in my wildest dreams did I feel like I was feeling good about the draft. I was thinking, well, I hope everything aligns that whatever teams go ahead of us, we get to choose a defenseman. That was all that was in my mind for this lottery draft. No hoping for the Sharks to move up. Just fine with the vibes. We'll go with it. I was just interested in where everyone else would fall. Did not expect in a million years that the Sharks would move from 9th, which is a fairly nice spot to be in, to get a pretty good player to add to our already exciting prospect pool, to 2nd.
I know. I think I saw that this is the first time that the Sharks actually moved up in the lottery, and since they started doing the lottery, I don't think this team has had much luck when it came to this stuff. And just to be able to draft first overall a couple years ago to 2nd overall last year to having the opportunity to draft again 2nd overall this year. I've seen people equally as excited and disappointed as everyone's calling that the lottery is rigged because the Leafs missed the playoffs this year and they sucked real bad. They don't know what's happening with Austin Matthews. He might be leaving soon. So, of course, they're going to give them first overall to replace him. And then the Sharks are the darling team of the NHL right now because of McAllen and Will and this and that. And then I feel so outside of these conversations. And I'm like, what are you talking about? But, just for fun, I'm gonna go ahead and say, yeah, sure, it's rigged.
It is so interesting to see the reactions on socials. I almost feel like, and it's likely because my algorithm is steered in this direction, it almost felt to me that the Sharks moving up to second overshadowed the Leafs getting first overall. Or one of my friends sent me this fun meme of two people fighting, and it's the Leafs versus the Canucks, saying the Leafs are like, well, just because you finished last with, the worst record doesn't mean you automatically get first overall pick. And the Canucks being like, you don't even deserve it. You just missed the playoffs 1 year, blah, 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 whatever. And then the Sharks person is just like, smoking pot and having fun in the background. But I mean, it definitely feels like there's more of an uproar in regards to the Leafs getting the first overall pick, just from what I've already said previously about this is the 1 year that they don't make the playoffs and they immediately get bumped up to get the best player, or have the opportunity to get the best player in this upcoming draft. And then people are also irritated with the Sharks just because we have the best vibes in the last couple of seasons. Celebrini, getting over 100 points, the connection between him and Smith, our season in general, and the future of our franchise, the way that our prospect pool is looking. Like, I'd imagine anybody who's a bit frustrated with the development of their team trying to get to the next level, they're probably frustrated that it seems like people are saying, oh, the Sharks are being gifted these picks, which, first of all, no. I mean, I was saying to a coworker this past week that we were unwatchable to the point where I was not suggesting that anybody who doesn't eat, live, breathe, love this sport every minute of every day should go watch a Sharks game during those years, because I would not want to waste someone's time. I see people who I go with or I would talk about the Sharks with. These are the folks who are going to go through these dark years because they've loved this team since the beginning. They love this sport. They love analyzing it, all that stuff. The casual fan, even the ones that are considered themselves to be Sharks fans, some of them weren't even watching the Sharks during this time. The tank was beyond empty. My coworker was saying during those times, you could literally get the first row of even the upper bowl for like $15. Nowadays, that is impossible. Yeah. But there was that time, and even some people in the distant background were even concerned that, oh no, will the Sharks have to leave San Jose just because we are that terrible? So we really were at the bottom, below the basement. People had to dig us back out, and that person being Mike Greer, who has been playing 4D chess ever since he came into the front office. The way that he makes moves, it's just so exciting. And granted, the last couple of seasons, we haven't really been where we wanted to be, but we were still in the early phases of the rebuild. You could see things happening. So in terms of us being gifted these picks, we were beyond terrible. This was like a Hail Mary to give us these types of picks. And then the way that he made that trade, was it last draft to move up to get Dickinson? I mean, yeah, sure, we had the second overall pick to get Michael Misa, but that was the same season that we had the worst record, and we still didn't get first overall pick. So we actually moved back in the draft. And then, yeah, Will Smith, but that was the season where we were also pretty terrible. McAllen, Celebrini, that was at the absolute worst. And even then, the season before that, when we were racing to the bottom with Chicago, and we still didn't get the first overall pick. So, right. I mean, sure, if you want to say that we were gifted this stuff, whatever makes you sleep at night, But then it was also really interesting to see some folks on socials who were very upset that the Sharks are being gifted these picks and their team is currently in the playoffs. And my first thought was, why don't you go watch your team? Your team is still playing. Why don't you go watch your team?
Mind your business.
Why are you upset? Yeah. Get out of my house. Like, go watch your team. My team's all playing golf right now.
Right.
Go watch your team.
Mind you, the Sharks have missed the playoffs for 7 consecutive years. Okay, so to the point you're making that they were gifted these picks or whatever. No, it's just like the team that Mike Grier has put together knows what they're doing, and they're picking good players in the places that we've drafted. You know, like it's not like it's not like the NHL gives you the players to your team. You got to pick them. It's not our fault that he's a genius, you know. We're just reaping the rewards at this point.
I mean, honestly, the only franchise who maybe has a reasonable excuse to be upset about where we're at right now, yeah, are the Canucks. They're allowed to be upset with everything around them because ever since the lottery was implemented, the Canucks have never moved up. And when you put it that way, it makes it even worse. And I can't get over the fact that we are picking before the Canucks. And we were how many points away from making the playoffs, which is another thing I want to highlight that, you know, we talked about our feelings in regards to, you know, when we were still in the race. So maybe we'll make the playoffs. It just depends on how terrible the Pacific wants to be today. And it turned out it was kind of out of our hands in the last couple of games because then the Kings clinched the final wild card spot, only to then get swept by the Avs, which could have been us. I remember you talking about how if we were to make the playoff, we would have to play against the Avs. And it is very likely that we would get swept. And I 200% agree with you. And even if we somehow pulled one game from there, it is exponentially unlikely that we would get two. We were only in this position because the division was just that bad.
Right.
And it's just, so I'm just going to take some kind of joy from the fact that the Kings took it out of our hands and we just went, oh, well, I guess we're not going to make the playoffs. For them to then have nothing to show for it when they get in there, and then they miss out on a chance to get a pretty good player.
Right.
I think they did us a favor. I like this result much better.
Maybe I am a Kings fan. I don't know. Thanks for your choices.
Yes.
Some other things I'm seeing around the internet is people pointing out how deep our prospect pool is looking, especially now with the second pick being added. Pete Jensen, I don't know who he reports for, but anyways, he put out a list of Sharks players that are 23 and younger, and obviously McAllen, Michael, Misa, Dickinson, Joshua Ravensbergen, which is the goalie that they drafted, I believe, last draft.
Yeah, at the end of the first round. Yep.
Chernyshov, Smith, Eklund, Askey, Graf. He's adding the second pick, which will most likely be Gavin McKenna or Ivar Stenberg. We'll talk about that in a minute also. And then I saw that Jonathan Becker retweeted it. He was like, could easily add Caglioni, Musty, Holton, and Beasted. So this man's talking us up too. Like, we're looking so good right now, and I'm feeling very spoiled. And you know, as Sharks fans who have been following this team for a while, I'm actually, oh my gosh, I was just making this realization. I'm celebrating 10 years this year. I've been a fan of this team. Isn't that crazy? Time flies.
Aww.
I know, right? I've seen the Sharks make the playoffs, I think, 3 times since I've started watching them. So I haven't seen much success from this team. I'm excited for what's to come. And yeah, I don't know, man. This is good stuff.
So it really changes the direction, and that has been the thing that has been occupying the little time in this busy week that I've had. I've been just looking up people analyzing the direction that the Sharks can go with this draft, and I started out feeling like, man, this makes it even more complicated because at ninth, a number of players already gone, and you kind of run into the situation like we did with Dickinson. If, the guy that you want is still available, maybe, you make a move or something like that, or what have you. But now that you're in the second spot, I mean, yes, of course you have more ability to have the choice that you want, but we know the choice that we have been hoping for all year is our right-handed defenseman.
Right.
And so that is the current debate right now. But I've been seeing everyone's talking about it's Gavin McKenna versus, Ivar Stenberg, and they're both wingers. And then, so if you just start scrolling through socials, it's a lot of people just making fun of like the draft and how teams should pick. I saw this one post in passing where I was very thrown back, where I was just like, where's McKenna? And then you have to go down like a ways before he's selected by the Winnipeg Jets. And I was like, this person must be a Jets fan. So it's like sifting through all the trolling, sifting through all, like insane trade. What if we, traded the second and moved back, and then you could grab 2 defensemen? And I'm like, I don't like that at all. I feel like the way that we've seen Mike Grier play the field, he was asked in his first media appearance after the lottery was all said and done. And, just like last season, just like the season before that, of course you're gonna humor people telling you what they would give you if you gave them that better draft pick. But and of course he says, yeah, I'm always up for listening, blah, blah, blah. That man is not going to give you the second overall pick. Of course he's going to say that, right? Of course he's going to say he's, yeah, I'm going to talk with you. That doesn't mean anything. But people are going back and forth between, pick the next best available player. No, we really, really need defensemen. And that's what's been kind of like occupying the little time that I have to look at that stuff this past week. So I kind of want to get your opinion about how you feel, given our prospect pool, given what we need, given how we've seen Grier work, and then a little bit of like what you hope we'll do during the draft.
I think from what he said in his interview and from what we've seen in the past, I believe that he's going to go for the best available option. So whether that be McKenna or Stenberg, I think if he wants to make a move for a defenseman, to be honest with you, I think we'll need a defenseman who's NHL ready. And I'm not sure if one of the players in this draft is ready to hop into the NHL just yet. I think Celebrini has what's the word? He's like escalated the Sharks' progress.
He's ascended.
Like the Sharks weren't supposed to almost make playoffs this past season according to the rebuild plan, right? Nobody was expecting it. Part of that was because the Pacific was so bad, but still, they made big improvements in general. And I think for me, I think Grier might look for a defenseman to add either in free agency or through trades, which is gonna suck if he has to trade for one, because obviously we love the guys that are coming up in the prospect pool and stuff, like in the pipeline. We're not gonna want to see any of them go, but it's a business. It's gonna have to happen at some point or other if he can't sign anyone he feels can really help with the Sharks progressing next season. So I truly believe that he's gonna draft the best player available.
I am also with you on that, despite people being like, no, we need him to get a defenseman. There's been talks, I've been hearing the name Chase Reed being thrown around, who's definitely going to be taken early. But I guess what I was trying to figure out this week is there's obviously the conversation between McKenna and Stenberg and how those are like, that's being picked as easily going 1 and 2. And then we've seen in previous drafts, probably the most notable one is when Slavkovsky ended up going first overall, and everyone was talking about how it's always going to be Shane Wright, and what he didn't end up going until pick 3. And then, with just like mock drafts that get put together leading up to the draft, they all kind of shift around a little bit. Even with the Ducks, they ended up picking what's his bucket, and he was completely just thrown back and surprise. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, not to say that that's not gonna happen probably at some point during the draft, but I just all week I've been thinking about, but what if we did get a defenseman? What if we did go against the grain? And despite the fact that it being McKenna and Stenberg being touted as 1 and 2, what if we did make a bit of a surprise? Because obviously with the Ducks, like, he's been pretty productive for them in his first season. But it just doesn't sit well with me. It just doesn't sit well with me. It's not because everyone's thinking, oh, we're ready to go. We have the guys that we need up front. We just need that like right shot defenseman who's going to be able to bring the puck into the zone. And then, you want him to be on the younger side of things. But it still doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel right to me for him to do that during this draft now that we've moved up into this much better position. I don't think, despite the fact that we have a pretty good offensive forward prospect selection, that doesn't mean just because you have it all set in place, like, all right, we're done. Now we just need that one guy and then we're done. I know it's not gonna be great to say this, but there are people who are movable that we've picked in previous drafts that are doing well. Like, if we really, really need a right-handed defenseman, you can package these guys. You can package the draft pick to do that. Now, granted, right now, there's not a very good market for the right-handed defenseman in that younger age range. But I still feel like you, that we're going to have to pick the next best player, and it's probably going to be one of those two guys. So assuming that the Leafs pick McKenna, it looks like the next guy that would be best to choose is Stenberg. And I'm kind of floating this pipe dream that is probably very unlikely to happen, but hypothetically, if we end up choosing him and he becomes part of the Sharks family, with everybody who's come in over the last couple of draft years, they've all kind of had a current player take them in under their wing, become their landlord. And I kind of like the idea of Stenberg being taken in by the Wenbergs.
Yeah.
Because he is Swedish. I just think it would be perfect. But I don't know about whether Felicia wants 5 children in her household, because they've got a third child on the way, and then you have Alex, and then you'd have this teenager coming in. I just don't know how she would feel about that, and whether they would have room in their
Right.
house. But I kind of like the idea because you know it'll happen. Someone is going to take this player under their wing, and is going to be their landlord.
Right. I also wanted to make this point where Shayna Goldman, who's part of Too Many Men, the podcast, she writes for the Athletic sometimes. She put together a chart for the Sharks, called it the Shark Stanley Cup checklist, and wrote down whatever players that they have right now and the specific needs that they have. Starting with, Celebrini is the franchise forward, but the Sharks need a star forward, a franchise defenseman, a shutdown forward, and a star goalie, a shutdown defenseman, and a defensive defenseman. I don't think Greer picking Stenberg is going to be a mistake. I think if he is as good as people are projecting, he could fill in that star forward need that the Sharks would need to make the Stanley Cup finals at some point. And then like the other pieces are going to have to come either through trade or free agency or whatever it is, coming up. I know we both know how much the Sharks need defense, a shutdown defenseman. We both know it. Like everyone's been complaining about it all season, but I don't think that's going to come from this draft.
And, like you point out, people have already been talking about if you get Stenberg and then he's ready to go because he's already playing in like the Swedish, men's league. He's just about, pretty much ready to get slotted into the NHL and start making things happen. Like, how exciting will it be if he gets into that cerebral mind meld with Celebrini and Smith and you put him on the top line and it's just like, we already had this amazing season. It's just going to be like even more insane. And like, yes, we need defense, but even though it feels like we're ready to start going and getting into the playoffs and making things happen, I do want to touch upon this a little bit more later, but just watching the playoffs right now, I've been very invested in the Sabres and the Habs games. They are so fast and there is no ice out there. And I go, oh my God, we're not ready. just watching them play. It's just the way that, it just everything feels like it's moving to X Factor, But it's like we're, like you said, no one expected us to be here. No one expected anybody to be talking about us going to the playoffs. And granted, yes, that's half to do with the division being so terrible. But we did meet our goal in terms of getting out of the basement, in terms of kind of where we were expected to be the season before that in terms of points. So it's moving along in the direction that we wanted to go. So I'm still feeling very optimistic about everything. And no doubt, however the chips may fall in this draft, we're definitely going to get another great player, whether it's defense, whether it's offense, to add to our already pretty good pool of prospects and NHL players. And like every team, we're going to have to continue to add players, move stuff around and everything. But I'm feeling pretty good. And it just was an unexpected surprise for us to be even more excited to now be picking second in the upcoming draft. And I just wanted to highlight this because Frank Saravelli, I don't know how he's still doing what he does, but he made this post and he had this article that I did not click on. He posted, first run at the top 5 in my 2026 NHL Draft mock. I have the Canucks taking Gavin McKenna at number 3. And then he puts a link. And this was after the draft. So if you want to help Frank get clicks on his article and see how, hey, you know what? I'll just put it out there. The Leafs did make a GM change, and this GM comes with a bit of baggage. There's a possibility that he'll galaxy brain the first overall pick and not choose Gavin McKenna. But how he ends up with maybe that's what he writes in the article. Maybe he's expecting the Leafs to overthink it. And then I've despite the conversation between the two, that 1 and 2 that would go in this draft, if the Sharks pick Stenberg, yes, I can see how he would fall to the Canucks. But this very much feels like a massive clickbait by Frank Saravelli, and given the amount of quote retweets and comments, I think people feel the same way.
It did numbers on Twitter, huh?
Mm-hmm. So,
does he work for the Canucks?
He is a Canucks insider, supposedly, but whether that is like self-proclaimed seems to be more where things are at than any sort of legitimacy. But anyways, let's move on to the playoffs. Have you been catching any of the games recently?
A few of them, yeah. I was just watching the Wild and Avs before we hopped on here. They were 0-0. How are you feeling? I turned on the TV and I got to watch the Wild score 2 goals. I haven't checked the score yet, but I think that's a pretty good matchup. I wasn't able to catch the first 2 games, but it looks like the Avs have been dominating the Wild so far. I've watched a little bit of the Golden Knights and Ducks games. Unfortunately, the Ducks aren't holding up as well as I'd hoped. It looks like the Canes are dominating the
the
Flyers.
The Flyers.
Thank you. And then who's the other one? Montreal and the Sabres, I think, is pretty close. I think Montreal's up 2-1 in that series at the moment, which I saw something cool because they're somewhat close. And Niagara Falls obviously is like split between Canada and New York. Buffalo, or anyways, the New York side is lit up blue and gold for the Habs. For the Sabres, and then the Canadian side is red, white, and blue for the Habs right now, which is cute.
The water does not discriminate.
No, the water is for all.
Yeah, that first game with the Avs and the Wild series, I didn't get to watch it, but that final score was making everybody happy.
Yeah, that was good.
That is kind of insane though for a game 1. Like, what was everybody doing?
Right.
Apparently not a whole lot of defense in that game. That is insane for that type of score, especially in the playoffs. Especially in the second round. Like, you if it was in the first round, I'd be like, well, that's a little ridiculous. But if it was something like the Colorado Avalanche versus the Kings, I would have been like,
that's expected.
Yeah, okay. I haven't really been catching too much of the Colorado Minnesota series. Definitely been avoiding the Knights and the Ducks, but pretty disappointed the Ducks aren't doing us a solid here. Right. Marner, scored a hat trick the other day. Like, come on, Ducks. What is going on? Yeah, so the Habs advance over the Bolts, and if you recall what I said during the previous episode, thankfully this holds up because the Pittsburgh Penguins didn't do any favors with my pulling for them. Right. And then I feel like the Minnesota Wild decided to finally win a series because I decided not to root for them.
I just
But
checked
like
the score. It's 4-1 right now, so second period. They're doing good.
But like I said earlier, the Habs and the Sabres, that has been the series that I've been pretty invested in. Very exciting if you're not catching it. Like I said, it's just like super fast. There's not a whole lot of ice out there. Like they were the Sabres took game one. I caught the last bit of the third period, which I feel like it's my fault that the Habs didn't win because they started scoring when I started watching, so my bad. But then I did watch all of the second game and they came out flying. They got the first 3 goals just like right off the bat. Like the Sabres just like completely overslept and showed up late to this game. But I honestly I feel like it could go either way still. Like, but it's a very exciting series to watch. And I mean, Carolina just kind of spanked around, the Flyers. So
I didn't realize that they had the game today or whatever, so they ended up sweeping both teams so far, which is kind of crazy because I don't think that's ever been done before.
well, their luck might run out, but we'll see what happens. Who comes up on top for the Sabres and the Habs. So, do you have any feelings in terms of who's going to win that series?
I haven't been able to catch a game yet, so I can't really tell. I wouldn't mind either team going through, but right now I think I'm leaning a little bit towards Buffalo just because, they don't have a cup yet. Montreal has plenty. I know it's been a minute, but they have plenty.
I wouldn't mind whoever wins the series, but I am slightly pulling for the Habs. So
that's fine. All right. Players.
And I think we're still reluctantly rooting for the Ducks.
Yeah.
And we wish you well, Minnesota, but I'm not feeling too good about that. But we'll see.
I still think Colorado's going to come out on top in that series.
So one thing I wanted to talk to you about that I was thinking about a couple of days ago, as people are now talking about how Connor Bedard's contract, a new contract needs to get signed, as well as Adam Fantilli, I believe, is coming up, and Leo Carlson. And that really got me thinking about Celebrini's contract, especially given that the new CBA is going to take off in September. And that includes the new limit of only 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
What are your feelings in terms of, so Celebrini's got 1 more year on his current contract. Does that make you feel any type of way about wanting to get it done this off season, so you can lock in the last chance you can have for a player to have an 8-year contract? Or does that not really have any mind to you?
I think Greer would probably want to lock him in for the 8 years. I think that's, you can't not, that extra year for a player like him. I believe they did ask him at the end of the year if there's been any contract extension talks, and I don't think there were. But I wouldn't be surprised if it started up maybe after he comes home from the, the Worlds that he's at right now.
Mm-hmm.
If I was Greer, I'd lock him in for the 8 years.
I think it'll definitely be interesting to start out with Bedard kind of setting the tone.
Yeah.
For what that new contract is going to look like. And yeah, I feel like it would be in the best interest of the franchise. I mean, given that we have plenty of money to play with right now, but you're thinking a couple years down the line, you've got, the upcoming prospects and everything. It's going to start getting a little pricey. And so obviously to lock it in for an extra year will be beneficial to the franchise to get that, even though it's going to be a pretty high number, you're still going to get probably a better deal than if you have to have that conversation again a year earlier, because now you can only sign him to a 7-year contract. Any feelings on how much he's going to be worth?
I don't know. I think it's going to be a big number, though. maybe pull like a Sidney Crosby and take a little bit of a discount to get the players that the Sharks need to get a cup. I don't know.
But when did Sidney start doing that? That feels like a thing that you do if you're with the team for many, many years, like him.
I don't know. I think his thing is that he was just superstitious and just wanted to make 87 whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But who knows?
All right. Well, I guess we'll see what happens. I definitely think it's going to have to... I don't see his contract being solidified until Bedard's is. I feel like that's going to need to happen first for him to set the tone.
Probably.
Okay. In other news, do you have any feelings in regards to the Leafs and their direction for their newest GM? Do you know anything about him? Well, I will let you know about John Chayka, because he is the new GM for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And he was originally the GM for the team formerly known as the Arizona Coyotes. From this excerpt that I have from The Athletic, here's a little bit of his resume. So Gary Bettman said Chayka breached his obligation to the club by reportedly pursuing a job opportunity with the New Jersey Devils while he was still employed by the Arizona Coyotes. Soon after his exit, the NHL forced the Coyotes to forfeit draft picks, their second-round pick in 2020 and their first-round pick in 2021, for violating the league's draft combine testing policy while Chayka was in charge. Hired in 2016 as the youngest GM in pro sports history at 26, Chayka ran the Coyotes for 4 seasons. They missed the playoffs for the first 3 and were eliminated after the play-in round in 2020 after Chayka had left. How do you feel now?
He doesn't sound like a good GM. Why would he do that?
And I want to share this clip from their media appearance that they had after it was announced, and he was available to the media to have them ask their questions.
Steve Simmons, Toronto Sun, for Keith. You talk about the due diligence that you did on John prior to hiring him and now hiring him. In the past, say, 3 to 4 days, I have been in contact with about 20 people who work in the National Hockey League, many of whom are prominent names that we would all know. And of the 20 people I spoke to, one was supportive of John's hiring, and the other 19 thought it was a sham, to be perfectly honest. Words were used like con artist, liar, salesman. How did you come to a different conclusion than I was able to come to in a very short time?
I must have talked to different people.
That's it? Because I'm telling you, the hockey world today is astounded by this announcement.
Okay.
And your response to that?
Is we've conducted due diligence, and it was deep due diligence. It was a thorough process, and I'm quite happy with where we've landed.
Okay. So, yeah, I did not tune in to this presser because, I mean, it's the Leafs and, but Nate showed this to me and my jaw was on the floor because this is just a reminder yet again how lucky we are with the Sharks, because Toronto media is brutal.
Yeah.
Like, despite what I've listed off already about Chayka, that is still brutal. And the fact that this guy, Steve Simmons, said, I talked to these folks and he made it very apparent that you would know these people because they're worth knowing. They all said the comments that he read off, and they're like very just in your face and nasty. It just blew my mind. But despite all that, we all remember when we were in our 20s. I was not a GM though, but in your 20s, you're making very dumb decisions. And he's not in his 20s anymore. And, this, despite the things that he did, I mean, probably one of the most damning ones is violating, the combine the policy. And if I were a fan of the Coyotes during that time, that would have been the most frustrating moment because you had to forfeit those 2 draft picks. Like, I mean, and the Coyotes were a team that was like in an infinite rebuild. Yeah. until they were, because of what happened with the whole debacle with the team ownership and, blah, blah, blah. They ended up becoming the Utah Mammoth. And now, of course, with the new ownership, they're not settling for this infinite rebuild. And, they were very close to making the playoffs this season. So, I mean, all that to say, like, yeah, it's not great. And I'm not saying that the Leafs shouldn't have necessarily hired him. I did watch Steve Dangle's reaction to Chayka getting hired. And I will say, though, some of his recollections from the years when Chayka was there and he was drafting folks. I mean, yes, you do have a team of scouts and people who compile this information for the GM, and then ultimately GM is the person who makes that decision of who they're going to pick. So I'm not saying it's all on him, but it definitely gave me some PTSD from the years where we drafted like Mirko Mueller. Just these unfortunately was incredibly underwhelming. And when you look at the players you could have picked during that time frame, it's a bit frustrating. So I don't know. It just, and then the Leafs are getting handed this first overall pick, so they have this opportunity to steer their team in a different direction. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that because I just found that really interesting.
I have no thoughts on this. Honestly, I don't pay attention to the Leafs enough, but it just doesn't seem smart, and maybe that'll work to our advantage when it comes to the draft.
Maybe he'll help some folks out. All right, we're going to take a moment to do our ad read. As you know, this episode is being sponsored by DraftKings. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, has a new customer offer. Bet player props. Bet live. From the opening faceoff to the final horn, every moment matters. New DraftKings customers bet just $5 and you'll get $100 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN so you're ready for the moment. That's code THPN. Turn $5 into $100 in bonus bets instantly. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. or 1-800-MY-RESET. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. Limited time offer. Copyright 2026 NHL. All rights reserved. And so for the matchups tomorrow, We've got the Buffalo Sabres going against the Habs. The money line for the Sabres is a plus 102 to the negative 122 Habs. And then the Golden Knights take on the Ducks. The Knights are a minus 122 to a plus 102 for the Ducks. So use our code THPN if you'd like to bet.
Woo.
All right. We are moving on to the PWHL playoffs.
Woo!
Now, we all know I'm vested in the Victoire,
Yes.
and I really wanted to come on today and celebrate, but instead, they allowed the Frost to come back in the game the other day, and I was frustrated.
You know,
So
for some reason, I thought they were playing a best of 3 series. So I was like, oh my God, they won the second game. They're moving on. And then I was like, wait a minute. There's more games to be played. Sorry.
I was so frustrated. They gave up the first game to the Frost, despite the fact that Laura Stacey got a hat trick in that game. That was super awesome. But every time Montreal came back to tie it up, they immediately gave up a goal to the Frost, and then they do it again, and they immediately gave up a goal to the Frost. And it's just a bunch of whiplash for that game. And for a small moment, we got to celebrate Laura Stacey getting a hat trick. I believe the game was in Montreal, so it was great for the fans in house. But what they probably really, really wanted was a win.
Right.
And then for the next game, what's that game one? It's all a blur. You know which ones I'm talking about if you've been following this series. And then the game after that, the Victoire come back into the game. I believe this is the one where they went into 3 overtimes, which worked in my favor because I wasn't able to watch it when the early start during the week. So when I got home, I was like, oh, they're still played.
Nice.
But 3 overtimes, like, that's insane, only for it to end. I believe this was the game where it was the top line, like it went, like, I think Rock brought it in, then passed it back to Stacey on the left side. Stacey then passed it back to Rock, who passed it all the way over to Poulin, and she just has that one-timer that gets right past the goaltender, and I loved every moment of it. And then this was this past game. This is the one where they were supposed to shut the door on the Frost, and then the Frost came back. But I will say some of the highlights so far with this series is that Brittle Curl Salemi was suspended for 1 game because she's a big old goon. And I think that was the scrum that she got into with Abby Rock, ending up giving Abby a black eye, but everyone loved the black eye from Abby Rock because she is just such a badass. But yeah, so she ended up getting a suspension, and then she came back this past game, and she was just causing a bunch of havoc as well. Whatever. I don't know how. I basically don't want the Frosts to win in general, and I definitely don't want them to win with this transphobe on the team.
Right.
So
I think I'm rooting for the Victoire as well to go all the way. I like the way they play.
And I have not been catching the Charge versus the Fleet, but I am rooting for the Charge. I would love them to take it and go to the finals.
They just
I think
need
that
one
would
more.
be exciting. And then in other news, they are beginning to announce the expansion teams, and this is not anything surprising, but Detroit is getting an expansion team. And I think it makes sense because Detroit, given they are nicknamed the Hockey Town, they produce a lot of notable hockey players. They have, an NHL team. No surprise that I'm sure a bunch of people are going to want to attend games once their team gets situated. Their color scheme is not surprising to me either. I guess they're trying to do a bit of like a unification with the Red Wings. I think that was kind of the direction that the Seattle Torrent went with as well, to kind of match like just the overall green vibe that Seattle and Washington have. Do you have any thoughts in terms of Detroit being the first expansion team to be announced this year?
No, I don't. I'm not surprised. It's they're gonna have the draft there, so just to expose the town more to the league and stuff. I'm not super crazy about the colors they pick, black and white with maybe hints of red, but they're doing them. I think I'm more excited to talk about the potential expansion towns.
Yeah. So I feel like we've kind of talked a little bit about this in the last episode, given that it's been known that the PWHL does want to expand to at least 4 other locations for this upcoming year. And people have already been talking a lot about Detroit, and as we already said, that's no surprise. But I remember saying I just had zero feeling in terms of us being part of the mix, at least for this upcoming expansion, given that we haven't had a takeover game in this exact spot. I mean, yes, in the past, before the PWHL was created, back when the NWHL was in production, the PHF were in production. The big thing that was going on around for women's hockey was that the ultimate goal was to create this even more competitive hockey league. And so right alongside those 2 hockey leagues that I was talking about, the players that were made up largely of the Olympic level players, they were doing their what was it called? They were doing a tour.
I forgot.
But you know what I mean, that they were doing their own separate thing where they would choose cities and they would host games, and it was like an exhibition style. And I mean, yeah, we had those several times here in San Jose in the Bay Area, but outside, and then of course with the Sharks being here, the Barracuda being here, the fact that women's sports has definitely surged in the last couple of years with Bay FC and the Valkyrie. It's no surprise that hockey would have such a big interest in this area, and a PWHL team would be well received. With all that said, given that we haven't had the takeover game here, I just did not feel like we were in the running at this time.
Yeah.
And now there's this sudden talk about it, which is kind of giving us a little unsteadiness in terms of how to feel. Because I definitely don't want to get too excited.
Right.
I am definitely skeptical. And I'm definitely only really following and absorbing content from folks that I have seen in the past that advocate and write and specifically follow the PWHL, because I feel like right now we have a lot of saturation of people who would be interested in the hockey aspect of it, but haven't really, outside of location wise, don't talk about women's sports. And that is where I'm at right now, where I'm just like, okay, it like, duh, of course San Jose should get a team. But whether this is all just chatter is kind of where I'm taking a step back, and I'm like, well, I'll wait. I'll wait for someone who I know has been following women's sports since the get-go, has been following the PWHL since the get-go, who creates content on that, because I don't want to get too ahead of myself and find out, oh, it's just because, that'd be nice in 4 years.
So from the last time we spoke about this, we talked about how cool it'd be to have a team in San Jose. Didn't think that it would come anytime soon. Then this news came out of nowhere after Detroit was announced to get an expansion team. It was kind of like rumored that San Jose might be in the mix. And you're like, well, that's weird because that doesn't make sense. And then it's been reported that there have been talks for this to be finalized sometime in the next coming weeks. Nothing's been finalized yet, but it's looking really promising. And so I'm trying so hard not to get excited for something that might not happen, but right now it's trending in a way that this could be happening so soon, and no one was prepared for it. I'm also curious to know, like, who's behind this, is Hasso Plattner going to be like a part of the ownership as well? Because, he loves the Sharks and what the city and everything that he does for this community. And then there's also talks like the name. Everyone's talking about, if this happens, what's their name going to be? I've seen some good suggestions. I think one of my favorites that I've seen is the Hammerheads, the San Jose Sharks history Twitter account. They posted that they would love for them to be called the Hammerheads in honor of former San Jose Mayor Susan Hammer, who helped bring the Sharks to San Jose when she was city council member. And I think that would be a nice tie-in to the aquatic and Sharks themed, and also a tie-in with the city. So that I'd be down for that. And then I can't help but think, what's their color scheme going to be? I'm getting so excited, and I shouldn't, because we don't know if this is happening, but it's hard not to, The Bay has been proven to do really well with women's sports. The Valkyries specifically have been breaking records with attendance and everything. Bay FC has been doing really well. It'd be really cool. And we've been talking about this for a while. How cool would it be to have a women's hockey team here?
Yeah, a part of me feels like this, if this really has been, okay, well, they've been saying, from what I've seen, that this has been getting talked about. So it doesn't sound necessarily like there's been a conversation happening throughout the season, in any sort of, very concrete manner. Mm-hmm. And even the way that this league was put together was very quick. Mm-hmm. So we shouldn't be surprised if this does end up being the case. And even the way that they're going about it should not surprise us. But I am still very concerned.
Yeah.
about allowing myself to get excited about this, and then it just be, well, that was nice that they were talking about it, so we definitely know we're in their radar, but it's not going to be for for another couple of years, which wouldn't be so terrible. It would just bring us back to where we were before all of this started coming out. But the fact that it is here, and the fact that it's been everybody outside of people who necessarily report and follow women's sports, it's starting to come in through all avenues, and it's particularly hard to stay leveled about my expectations. But it would be incredibly exciting. I would be interested to see just how, SAP is used a lot outside of Sharks games, and this would coincide with their season. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of work it out. scheduling wise. And I looked up when the PWHL season typically starts, and it would be if they keep with what they've done, it would be sometime in like late November. So, I mean, it being May, I mean, yeah, November's a little bit of ways away. So like I already said, this league moves fast, but it is kind of a bit jarring. And I guess maybe because when the NHL does expansions, you hear about it for at least a year in advance.
Right.
And then people go searching for the names to be leaked and everything. So it is a bit, not typical for us to be experiencing this, but it would be really cool. I don't know. I feel like just our luck, we're talking about this and then the episode goes out and then they go announce it like the next day.
I know. Just kidding. It's not happening. Aw.
Yeah. I mean, they're adding like 4 teams. It would be very ideal for them to add additionally to the West Coast, given that they expanded to Vancouver and Seattle. And I did see talks about how it would be beneficial for those teams to have more local teams, because we know all about with the Sharks when they go on road trips that East Coast trip is always pretty brutal. And then in general, anytime you have to leave this area to go anywhere to play in the Eastern Conference, it's always kind of brutal in terms of just the travel and then the time difference and everything, which the Eastern Conference doesn't have to deal with quite as much, just because of the proximity of all their teams. So, and I did see there was talk about how the Torrent and the Golden Eyes did struggle a bit with that. And then maybe we can even humor, for a while we've just been excited to see where Layla Edwards goes. Well, maybe Layla Edwards can come to San Jose.
As if we couldn't get any more good news,
Mm-hmm. That would be super exciting.
Spoil us.
But yeah.
Spoil us, hockey gods. We're getting greedy.
Yeah, right? People are just we're gonna become the enemy of the hockey world pretty soon here. All right. And then finally, I wanted to give a little shout out to the Dallas Stars, because if you guys haven't, I feel like we mentioned this maybe like a little while back. And if we didn't, well, we're going to mention it now. Many seasons ago, we invited our good friend Nate Mata onto the podcast. He's part of the RGV Roller, which is a roller hockey organization, nonprofit down in McAllen, Texas. He's basically been helping to, grow hockey and the love of hockey in South Texas. And he's been doing it for a number of years now. And I remember when we first had him on, we talked a little bit about how, there's been talks with the Dallas Stars in terms of, like them community wise, like doing something to uplift this organization. At the time, they hadn't really done a whole lot, but last season they did invite a number of children with their chaperones. They paid for the bus ride all the way up to Dallas, which I want to say it's at least like a 10-hour drive from the time that I was living in Texas. It was at least 5 hours from San Antonio to Dallas. So given the number of hours down to McAllen, I think it's about maybe 8 to 10 hour bus drive. But they went to go pick up the kids and their chaperones. They drove them up to Dallas. They invited them to a game. They entered in style. They got to have a session with staff and their coaches. They got to keep their gear. They got a suite to watch the game from. And I really just loved how a couple of years after we first had Nate on this podcast, to see the progression in the Stars finding ways to do good in the community. And we know with our own perspective with the Sharks and how they do a little bit of that, but I know like you talked a couple of scenes ago about how, you're a little bit in more northern of the Sharks and how you kind of feel like there's a lacking of, having exposure to hockey. And this is kind of a bit similar with how far away South Texas is from Dallas. And so when you put that into perspective like that, I think it's extra cool that not only did they do that last season, but then this season they funded to have the whole hockey rink, the multi-purpose pavilion that the nonprofit hosts practices, games, just skating in general for the nonprofit. They decided to give it a glow up, a facelift. And so the past couple of weeks, the area has been shut down so that they can do their work. But this coming May 21st, they are going to be doing a ribbon cutting to unveil all the new fun upgrades that they did to the area. So I am super, super excited. Obviously, it's a couple of weeks, week and some change away, but I just wanted to get everybody excited, looking forward. I'm sure there's going to, Nate's going to put out a whole bunch of video feeds and photos, and it's going to be really exciting to look forward to.
Yeah, it's really cool to hear about. I'm so proud of Nate. I feel like such a proud older sister. He's put in so much work into RGV, and like everyone who works with him obviously love the community so much, and this is so exciting for them. I'm so happy for them.
So definitely check that out on I believe the Dallas Stars did put this on their socials. So this is like official that they are announcing this. So I think it's super cool. I would love to see some players come out. I know they're in golf season now, but I would still like to see a player or two, because it'd be really cool for the kids and for the older kids like Nate. But I think it'd be really, really cool. I don't care who it is. Obviously, it'd be great if it was, Robo.
Send Pavelski. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, he's got all the time in the world now. But I think it'd be really cool if you had at least one player, maybe two, come out just to get the kids even more excited.
We'll just have to tune in and find out.
Yeah, so May 21st, 10 a.m. So that is 8 a.m. Pacific time. I'm looking forward to seeing what it all looks like. All right, and that is it. So we have the draft to look forward to. We have whoever makes it to the conference finals for the NHL. We have the PWHL finals that are going to be coming in the coming week. Who is it going to be? I am rooting for the Victoire. Please close it out on Monday. How dare you make me wait till Monday? And apparently I'm Montreal or bust this playoff season, apparently.
It's okay, me too. I'm on the bandwagon.
Yep. And then we have the unveiling of the renovations that the Dallas Stars are doing for South Texas nonprofit roller hockey league. Maybe if San Jose gets a PWHL team. All right,
they will.
That's all.
I mean, just kidding. I'm
eventually,
it'll happen.
All right,
at some point.
Hopefully, we have some more exciting stuff to talk about in progression to everything that we already discussed this week. But until then, I am your host, Jay.
And I'm Naz. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Hey, well, that's the end of the episode. But don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube, and follow us wherever you get your audio podcasts. Also, help us gain more visibility by leaving a 5-star rating. We truly appreciate all the support. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you at the next puck drop.